I recently heard about a conference taking place in Melbourne for International Men's Day, which will apparently inspire men to connect, grow and transform into something, they don't really say what. Now, the event organiser I've never heard of, an organisation called the Australian Men's Network, which according to their website, australianmensnetwork.com, is a not-for-profit organisation. Now, when you click on the website's one and only link to ticketbooth.com, you'll notice the exorbitant prices they're looking to charge for tickets to this event. But then you might notice something else that's rather strange, and it's this bit that says, the International Men's Day event is proudly brought to you by the Australian Women's Network in conjunction with the Australian Men's Network. Now that got me thinking, what do we know about this Australian Men's Network? Well, we know that it's a not-for-profit organisation, so I thought I'd start there to see what I could find. So I went to the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission and did a search, and they had no record of an Australian Men's Network. So then I went to the Australian Business Register's website to see if I could find a current Australian business number, and what do you know? There isn't one. So then I thought, well, maybe the Australian Men's Network is just a trading name belonging to another organisation. So I went to the Australian Securities and Investments Commission website, or ASIC for short, and did a business name search, and it turns out no such business name is registered. So the Australian Men's Network is not a not-for-profit organisation. In fact, it's not an organisation at all. So you might remember that ticket website we saw earlier said that the event was proudly brought to us by the Australian Women's Network in conjunction with the Australian Men's Network. So it made sense to have a look at this Australian Women's Network to see what I could find out. So I had a look at their website and, hang on, that logo looks familiar. It looks familiar because they are the same logo, and it turns out that this event is being held by the Australian Women's Network, not the Australian Women's Network in conjunction with the Australian Men's Network, because the Australian Men's Network doesn't exist. It kind of seems like the Australian Men's Network has just been invented out of thin air to make this event seem more legit. But why would the Australian Women's Network want to do that? Could it have something to do with the fact that the Australian Women's Network is a global referral network which provides an online platform for women in business to connect and achieve success in business through online referrals and networking? The mission created is to inspire greatness in women in all areas of their lives, and the Australian Women's Network was created by women for women? I reckon that may very well have something to do with it, Bearing. Seems that way, doesn't it? This is Bearing, by the way. I'm making this video in conjunction with Bearing, because apparently you can do things in conjunction with yourself now. It does seem that way. I mean, if we're talking about an International Men's Day event, proudly brought to you by the Australian Men's Network sounds a lot more legit than proudly brought to you by the Australian Women's Network, doesn't it? Sure fucking does, Bearing. And then, ladies and gentlemen, there is the White Ribbon Connection. See, White Ribbon are an Australian charity all about preventing men's violence against women. Now, why do I bring up White Ribbon? Because White Ribbon are the sole beneficiary of this event. All proceeds from this event support White Ribbon Australia.
Gotcha, bitch!
So the Australian Women's Network want to take the proceeds and goodwill generated by International Men's Day and redirect it all back to women. And it would appear that they're trying to do so by deceiving the public.
One of the main things that over my 30 years in the corporate world was trust. Trust is one of the most important members, advocates of each other's success. And I think if you can have the trust, that builds the strength and courage to seek each other's work together, and you lift each other up, because I think these days today people need that, the trust, the strength and the courage, because we're all so busy and we've all got so much on.
Okay, well that didn't make too much sense, Francesca, but something about trust. Now, I've only put together a quick outline of what's gone on here. I strongly recommend you watch a far more in-depth video by my good mate Independent Man. Link in the description. Cheerio.
Recession, session!